Every single day, literally trillions of dollars are zipping around the globe, changing hands in the financial markets. But have you ever stopped to think, how do we actually know that a share of Apple stock bought in Tokyo is the exact same thing as a share sold in New York? Well, the answer lies in this kind of hidden language, a set of secret codes that are really the invisible architecture of all of modern finance. So let's get into it.
I mean, think about it. You've got millions of transactions happening every minute across dozens and dozens of countries. There is absolutely zero room for error. So how do you make sure that a pension fund in London and some brokerage in Toronto are talking about the exact same corporate bond? You see, preventing some kind of catastrophic mix-up, well, that's the fundamental challenge of a global market.
And the solution? It's a concept that's actually, deceptively simple. Every single asset gets a unique ID. That's it. This is the bedrock of the entire system. It's that invisible architecture we were talking about, the thing that makes sure every transaction is precise, verifiable, and totally trustworthy. So what is a securities identifier really? Just think of it like a unique serial number for any financial asset, a stock, a bond, you name it. For anyone who deals with data, it's what we call the primary key. That means it's the one, single, undeniable piece of information that points to that exact asset, no matter where it is in the world. Seriously, without these codes, automated trading would be impossible. The risk of huge, costly errors would just be through the roof. All right, so the big one, the most important of these IDs on the world stage is the ISIN. That stands for International Securities Identification Number. And honestly, the best way to get what it does is to think of it as a passport, but for a financial asset. Right. Just like you need your passport to cross an international border, a security needs an ISIN to be traded and settled between different countries. It's the one ID that everyone recognizes, everyone accepts, no matter where you are. And that makes it the absolute linchpin of cross-border finance. And the way an ISIN is built is surprisingly logical. It's really straightforward. The first two letters, that's just the country code. So US for the United States, DE for Germany, you get it. The next 9 characters, that's the local national ID number for that security. And that last digit, now that's the really clever part. It's called a check digit. It's a little bit of math that computer systems use to instantly check if the first 11 characters are legit, which stops a simple typo from turning into a massive headache. Now, the importance of ISIN isn't just some theory, it's right at the heart of the global financial system's plumbing. I mean, look at this. SWIFT is the huge messaging network that all the banks use to talk to each other internationally. And the fact that ISIN is the most common identifier in those messages, that just proves it. It is the official language of global finance. So, while ISIN is the global passport, local markets have their own identifiers that are just as essential. A good way to think about these is like a securities driver's license. It's perfectly valid, and you absolutely need it to operate, but only within a specific country or region. And the two biggest ones you'll hear about are CUSIP in North America and SEDOL in the UK. So CUSIP is this 9-character code, and it is absolutely essential for the North American market. It's what's used to clear and settle trades right here in the US. Then you've got SEDOL, which is a 7-character code used for the UK and Irish markets. Each one is basically the key that unlocks its own domestic settlement system. So get this, a single US stock actually has both. It has a CUSIP, which it needs for the domestic clearinghouse, the DTCC, to actually settle the trade inside the US system. But at the same time, it also has an ISIN, and that's what's used to identify that same stock when you're talking to international investors and banks. Passport and a driver's license, you need both. Okay, so having all these different overlapping identifiers creates a pretty significant challenge for the IT systems that power global finance, right? You basically need to build this incredibly sophisticated digital border control to manage all these different IDs without a single mistake. And that border control system, it has to be able to instantly validate any ID you throw at it. An ISIN, a CUSIP, a SEDOL, doesn't matter. It has to identify the security and process the transaction correctly, whether that trade is crossing a border or just staying at home. The speed and accuracy have to be, well, perfect. So how in the world do they pull this off? Well, it really boils down to 3 critical jobs. First, you have a central master file for every single security that lists all of its different IDs. Second, the system has to be able to cross-map these codes in real time, instantly linking a local CUSIP to its global ISIN. And third, it has to validate every single code that comes in the door to catch errors before they can do any real damage. Because at the end of the day, the goal is something called total data integrity. A tiny error, a single typo in a code that doesn't get caught, can cause a massive trade to fail to settle. And in a world of high-stakes, high-value transactions, that's a mistake that can easily cost millions of dollars. And, maybe worse, shake people's confidence in the market itself. So you see, these aren't just random strings of letters and numbers. They're much more than that. They are the absolute foundation of trust in our global financial system. They're the reason a trader in Tokyo can be 100% certain they're buying the exact same thing as a trader in New York. So, if we boil this all down, what are the key things to remember? First, these identifiers are the unique primary keys that stop those costly mix-ups. Second, ISN is the global passport that makes cross-border trading possible. Third, CUSIP and SEDOL are those essential local driver's licenses for domestic markets. And finally, behind it all, you have these incredibly powerful IT systems working 24/7 to map and validate everything, maintaining the trust that holds the entire system together. And that brings us to a really fascinating final question. In a future of digital assets, of blockchain, will these old-school codes still be what we need, or are we maybe on the verge of a totally new kind of global identifier, one that's designed for a decentralized world? You gotta wonder, what will the secret codes of the future even look like?